On the agenda today, we're going to go through a bunch of different stuff. Some of it is franchisee frustrations. So what people get frustrated about when they're looking for a franchise. We'll go meet GoliathTech. So who are we, the team a little bit, and so on and so forth. What is in it for me? So if I'm a franchisee and I'm looking to buy a franchise, what is it that I want? Available business models. So we're going to talk about different ways to become a franchisee, depending on your personal situation. Start the journey, which is basically going through, the steps involved in assessing, is this the right franchise for me? And then in the end, we're going to do a question and answer period, which will be an open forum, written questions and or verbal questions from you.
Okay. So my name is James. My official title is technical specialist here. So what my role would be, especially in the beginning, if you came on board and became a franchisee, is we'd be working closely together to make sure that you understand all the processes, and that we look at each project and all its challenges, so that once you come on board, we just don't hand you the keys and we hope for the best. We'll work very closely together in the beginning to make sure that we answer all your questions and all your needs are met. Right? Can you talk about yourself?
Yeah, I guess so. So I'm Julian. I'm the CEO of GoliathTech. GoliathTech was founded in 2004 by a young gentleman named David Bissonnette. I ended up buying his company after he ran it for about 9 years. I bought it in 2013. Converted the company into a franchise model when I bought it. He was a guy working out of his garage in a small little area in Sherbrooke, Quebec, a little town up in Canada. And he basically, he was running for 9-10 years, and he basically was making money and so on and so forth. But I saw it as more an opportunity that could go global. So franchise frustration. So when people are looking to buy a franchise, a bunch of things occur. They start analyzing, the many opportunities out there. It could be restaurants, could be construction like we are, there's different things. So, but there's certain things that are always frustrating for the franchisee. First one is obviously long setup time. You buy, I don't know, a given restaurant chain franchise, and you want to get going, but then you've got to build a building, you've got to get the equipment, you've got to go through all this process, and a year later you're finally set up and you're up and running, because you've got to get permitting, you've got to find a location, and there's quite a complex setup time. Whereas with GoliathTech, you can literally be in your living room within a few weeks after signing your contract. You're up and running and you're making money already. So there's very, very, very quick setup time with a GoliathTech franchise. Another thing people get frustrated about is very high royalty fees. So they're working hard for these other franchisors, and in the end, they're giving these massive royalties to the franchisor, and it's sort of cutting into their profitability. We don't do that. We have a zero royalty setup, so that makes it nice and easy. Strict brand guidelines. So what does that mean? Obviously we want to maintain our quality. We want to maintain our name and so on and so forth. And it's a very important thing to do. But at the same time, we're not going to be completely overreacting on brand guidelines. But at the same time, we want our reputation to be clean in the market. So we're lenient, but we're not. So it's somewhere in the middle. Obviously, because our brand is very important. Lack of opportunity. Many of the franchise chains out there have very minimal opportunity. Minimal in the sense that you buy a franchise and you can't get past a certain level of sales. You're limited. For example, you have a restaurant, it's got 30 seats. Well, you can only fit 30 people at a time. So you're capped at how many people can cycle through that given restaurant, as an example. In the GoliathTech franchise, there literally is an unlimited capability to grow. We got an award from Entrepreneur Magazine a year or two ago, and it said, best investment versus return on your money. And the reason that award was given was, because we asked, we're like, well, why did we win that? And they said, well, the reason is because there's no cap on the amount of sales you can make. You know, you can do street signs, you can do posts, you can do windmills, you can do decks and patio. And, you know, within a small territory, there's just infinite opportunity. So they awarded us that best investment versus return because of that. Another problem people get frustrated with are large startup costs. You know, you have a franchise which has a limited revenue capability, but then you have massive amount of cost to put them in place. So you need huge amounts of financing. Like even a simple one, which could be like a corner store, you know, you still have to get a huge amount of inventory. You still have to get all the you know, the coffee machines, the all of the stuff that goes along, all the machinery and so on and so forth. So the investments are really heavy, you know, where versus a GoliathTech franchise, you know, instead of being in the millions to get this thing going, you know, at 100,000 plus, you're operational and you're in business. The franchise fees, you know, below 100, but you know, all in invested, it's between 100 and 220-ish, 240. So it's not, it's a very inexpensive franchise to get into business with without a cap on growth.
So I just like to take that point just a little farther. Is as a potential franchisee is looking at the pros and cons, at the risks. There's always the option of what if this doesn't work out? What if this, you know, unlike other franchises, we have only one piece of specific equipment that is very, very specific to helical piles. All the other equipment is very general. So, example, you need a pickup truck, a trailer, a mini excavator, and or skid steer. Those pieces of equipment are very low risk to purchase, because if for whatever reason, you know, if when you're looking at the pros and cons, the risk, if things don't work out, they're very, very easy to sell. You're not stuck with this. Unlike, for instance, a McDonald's or a Tim Hortons. When you start your franchise, you have to buy their coffee machine, their hamburger oven, and if things do not work out, you are stuck with a McDonald's hamburger oven. I mean, you can only sell it to other McDonald's franchisees. So that's just another thing to look at when you're looking at franchises.
All right. So meet the GoliathTech team. So GoliathTech, obviously we have, as a franchisor, there's, you know, why do people buy a franchise? They buy a franchise because they want to buy into a frame. So what is our team about? Our team is production, it's marketing, it's sales, it's accounting, it's shipping, it's engineering, design, it's custom products. So basically, in the back end, you have this massive team of people who will be supporting you in your you know, in your development of your franchise. So you're not just, you know, buying this static thing. You've got this daily interaction that's going on with all the departments. That basically we are, you know, we are your shipping department, we are your engineering department, and so on and so forth. Who is GoliathTech? So, like I was saying earlier, we got a bunch of, well, I talked about a specific award where we got best investment versus return on money, but there's many other awards that we've gotten over the years. You know, 20 plus, I guess, is a good way to put it. I think there's even more. Currently, we have over 150 franchise units open. Canada, US, Europe starting now as well, which is really nice. Top 10 investment versus return on money we talked about, and no royalty fees.
So, what is a helical pile? We've talked about the business aspect of GoliathTech, but what is a helical pile? What would you be doing as a franchisee? So, a helical pile is a large screw that is installed in the ground with specific installation, with calibrated installation equipment. So, as we screw that helical pile into the ground, we install it to a specific torque or resistance with our calibrated equipment. And from that torque or resistance, we can calculate exactly how much compression, how much we can put on the pile, and how much tension, how much it takes to pull the pile out of the ground. So as opposed to the traditional concrete footing, where there's a lot of ground disturbance, mess, waiting time for the concrete to cure, etc., we can go in, install a helical pile, and we're ready to build on it immediately. No waiting time. So how are helical piles revolutionized the construction industry? Well, there's actually a many ways, but probably the most important way is the speed and efficiency. Um, the lesser advantages are the very small footprint. Imagine if you have your garden or backyard is already, you have your flowers, your pool, etc. You've lived there for a few years. You don't want to go in and start disturbing everything to install that deck or that patio around your pool that you've always wanted. We can show up with our mini machines and our helical piles, literally put down plywood on the ground. As we drive the machine in, we install the piles, we back the machine out. There is no footprint. And again, we can build on those helical piles immediately. But back to the efficiency, um, with concrete, there are a few drawbacks. Probably the most frustrating right now is waiting for concrete to be delivered. The curing time is something else, but waiting for the concrete delivered. There is a huge backlog in concrete. So again, there's no waiting time. You can show up with your mini machine, install the helical pile, and we can build on it immediately.
So why buy a franchise within the construction industry? So the construction industry as a whole globally is a consistently, constantly expanding industry. It's not static. It never goes down. When the economy is good, people build new homes. When the economy is bad, they stick with their old home and they rebuild. But there's still construction. Construction is everywhere. It's on the streets. Everywhere you look. Sometimes it can get in your way. You're blocking with construction signs, but you see it. You feel it. It's all over. In our environments all the time. So it's a very prosperous industry. Billions and billions of dollars of sales in the construction industry. We're one player within a massive ocean of possibilities, but there's no limitation to the growth possibilities within the construction industry. It's more about how much you want to pick up the phone, go out there and get it. How can a helical pile business be good for me? I am not a contractor. So you're a guy, you're in the computer industry or whatever industry you come from, you are not used to construction whatsoever. Okay, so this franchise, the franchise owners that we're looking for are not construction workers. If you've come from a construction background, great, but that's not the quality we're looking for. We're looking for entrepreneurs, people who are, business opportunity seekers and go-getters, people that are ready to pick up the phone and do sales and business development. That's part of what we need. The next thing we need is a quality in our franchisees, people that are able to manage the crews. So we don't want you as the business owner on the machine, but we want you to have the qualities to be able to manage the displacement of crews and make sure they're efficient and they're serving customers well. But it's more of a, think about it this way: the owner of the franchise is not a guy on the excavator. It's the guy at a desk who is doing desk work, building teams and building a location. So what is in it for me? So a franchisee obviously wants to make money, right? You want to have full opportunity. You want to have the ability to grow. The GoliathTech franchise has, as I was saying, I've said it multiple times, but I'll repeat it, is there's literally unlimited capacity or possibility out there. You just have to pick up the phone and go get it, because I'll repeat it. There's street signs, there's windmills, there's decks and patios, there's homes, there's parks, there's playgrounds. It never ends. It's just a matter of being creative and looking for what are the opportunities out there. And obviously we help you with that. We have very custom brochures and marketing tools for each specific niche. There's no profit limit. We have no royalty fee. Obviously we have a very good training program, quick and easy setup costs, access to existing operational framework. So, you're not starting a business from nothing. You're starting a business, but then you've got this massive back end with this factory, this huge 120,000 square foot production floor that's delivering, top of the line quality, your engineering, best practice, your customer service. There's all these departments, and this whole framework, marketing and so on, is all behind you. Superior technology.
Yeah. So a helical pile. A helical pile has three parts. So it has the helix or the load-bearing plate. It has the shaft or the tube of the helical pile, and it has the head. So the head is actually what I guess we could say is our specialty. So we actually have a patent on a fixed adjustable head. So as helical piles become more and more popular, I guess we could say, in the construction industry, especially in the US, a lot of more and more inspectors and engineers are looking at it and realizing that some of our competitors are really missing out on the tension aspect of a helical pile, or that the building has to be attached to a helical pile. So we actually have a 20-year patent on a fixed adjustable head. So once the structure is attached to the pile, in a windstorm, flood zone, hurricane, et cetera, the building is actually attached to the helical pile. Unlike our competitors, where it's actually they are relying on the weight of the structure and the gravity to hold their structure onto the helical pile. Spear installation. So this is, I touched a bit on this earlier about the advantage of helical piles. So with a helical pile and the relatively small installation equipment, we can install a helical pile that can support 30,000 pounds of compression load per pile with an excavator that weighs around 4,500 pounds. So we can do very, very large structures with relatively small equipment. So if you can imagine an area that was considered unbuildable or environmentally sensitive before, and there was no chance of going in with traditional excavation equipment, because of the proximity to the water line, a riverbed, a pond, or something like that, we can go in with our mini machines, install our helical pile, leave nearly almost zero footprint, and we can build above the environmentally sensitive areas. We can build our structure on our helical piles. Quick and easy installation. Again, no need to wait for curing time of the concrete. Once the helical pile is installed and we disconnect the drive coupler, we can literally build on that helical pile immediately. And again, minimum impact, small excavators can install piles that can hold huge loads.
Okay, so getting to know each other. We evaluate and discuss the opportunity together. So first step is you're going to meet us, one of our reps who basically will go through the process of explaining to you, what it is we do and is it for you, and so on and so forth. Then you will go through a certification process, which would be a whole training program, which is, what is the technical side of it? How do you put a pile in the ground? How does it work? What is the relationship between torsion and capacity? All the technical side. There's sales support, so on and so forth. After that, there's going to be the whole growth with us. So we're going to have, we're going to look at, you start with a given franchise, but then maybe in the future you might say, well, I want to add on another franchise territory and another one and another one. So people tend to buy, a franchise to start, and then 5 years later they might end up with 10. To get to accelerate economy of scales. Don't have to. A single franchise is fine, but it depends on your appetite for growth. And obviously, there's support on the job, marketing, orders, tech support, and so on and so forth. We're always right there behind you to help you get through, especially newer scenarios when you're doing something for the first time. I'd rather you call into head office and say, okay, look, I've got this specific situation. We've mostly seen it all. So, we're doing thousands and thousands. I think we're doing approximately 35 to 4,000 construction jobs every month. So we get, so many different scenarios that most of the time, you call us up, say, I got this unique situation. And it's like, oh yeah, well, we've actually seen that before, and here's how you approach it. So
success stories. So this actually ties into one of the earlier slides about, is this for me? So some of our most successful franchisees have had zero experience in the construction excavation industry. Darcy and her husband Ryan, for instance, before they came to head office for their training, they actually rented an excavator and dug some holes in their backyard just so they could get a feel for the machine. Max, however, is very successful, and he has been in the industry basically his whole life. So just because you have experience or do not have experience within excavation or construction, again, we'll tie this in with what Julian said earlier. It not that it's irrelevant, because it is an advantage. Let's face it. If you do have experience running an excavator, it certainly is an advantage. But it's not a hard yes or no, because we're looking for the right person to build their business, to go out, meet people, get in front of who they want to work with, for instance. General contractors, engineering firms, geotechnical firms. So one of the reasons for again, I'll use Darcy as an example. One of the reasons for Darcy and Ryan's success is I went down often to meet with Darcy and Ryan, and we got in front of literally everybody in Salt Lake City that she was interested in working with, from every engineering firm, architectural firm, geotech, city inspector, and everyone in between, and countless contractors, to get the name out, get the awareness of helical piles, the different applications, and how they could help others in their industry. For instance, in Salt Lake City, it's growing so quickly that they're running out of buildable areas with conventional building procedures or processes. With helical piles, we can go in at a very steep, softer area, and we can install helical piles as long as the load-bearing plate or the helix is in solid, virgin, good soil. We can be confident in the capacity of that helical pile. So we can install that helical pile right through the soft, the fill, if you will. No need for extra excavation. So that was a huge advantage for Darcy, for instance, in Utah.
So steps to ownership. First, you're going to get in contact with one of our franchise reps. They're going to talk to you about, the generalities of what the contract is and what the franchise is all about. Then you go through a more in-depth step where getting to know you. You're actually probably going to speak with Jim or I or both, where we're going to talk to you more in detail about, what is this? What's this about? And is it right for you? Do you fit us? Do we fit you? There's got to be fit both ways. You'll then go through a process where you look at the numbers. You're going to say, okay, well, what's the investment amount? What am I getting into? And so on and so forth. Very important, talk with the current franchisees, see what they went through. We can describe it from a corporate point of view, but it's always best to speak to the actual franchisee, because nobody can tell you better what they felt than themselves. So you talk with them, and they're going to tell you what they went through, the good and the bad, right? Sign the agreement. So that's the next step. Number 5, we sign an agreement. We agree it's time to move forward. You then either come up here, or we go through a virtual meetings with our team. So you're going to go department by department. We're going to meet these people. We'll explain what they do, how they support you, whether it's engineering, whether it's, whatever the department may be. After that, or typically at the same time, especially if you're up here for training, we'll go through the entire training and certification process, where our trainers will, show you every aspect of what it is to run a GoliathTech franchise. And then right after that, you're in business. It's time to launch your business. So you're picking up the phone, you're leaving these training, and you don't have to wait 3 months to build a building, or 6 months or a year. You go back home, you pick up your phone, and you start making money right away. As fast as you're able to pick up that phone, you're able to bring in customers, right?
So just one more thing. So what Julian was saying, once you launch your business, you pick up the phone and you start calling potentials. So we are also here for that. We understand that perhaps in the beginning, when you are meeting with an engineering firm or a general contractor, they may have questions that are a little out of your realm right off the bat. We're also here for that. If you want to schedule a call with a potential customer, we'll say customer could be, like I said, engineering firm, from anyone in between. I could get on the call. Julian could get on the call. One of our other specialists could get on the phone with you and answer any specific or tougher engineering questions they may have. So we're here at literally every step of the way to help you through every process.
Okay, certifications. Very important. In order to operate Canada, Europe, USA, whatever country we operate in, We have a bunch of different certifications. The first general certification, which really applies to all countries in the world, the first two is ISO 9001 and ISO 14001. ISO 19000, ISO 9001 is a quality certification. So we have auditors that come in and they look at the way we manufacture, the way we talk to our customers, the way our departments interact, the paperwork that supports all the activities within the company. So that basically a general overview and analysis of how the business is designed, with the goal of constant evolution and growth to a better and better system to support your customers. My previous company that I owned for about 18 years as well was ISO 9001 as well as 14001 certified. And it's a great differentiator. Like in our industry, none of our competitors have both 9001 and 14001 certification. So it's this sort of back end system that makes sure that there's third party auditors making sure that we're doing the right thing all the time. ISO 14001 is similar to the ISO 9001 certification, but in the context of the environment. So it's a certification where they look at all of our carbon footprint, all of our activities, all of our franchisees. What is it we do in our factory? And do we throw things in the garbage? Do we compost? Like everything we do from an environmental point of view. And the purpose of the ISO 14001 certification is to make sure basically we have best practice from an environmental point of view. Obviously helical piles as a general rule are a very green solution because we're very low carbon, very low footprint on the environment when we're installing in the ground. But there's also our internal manufacturing. We got to make sure that we have best practice. ICCES is another certification we have, which is specific to the US market, but it's also regarded and looked at for many other countries in the world. So even if we have a certification that was really designed for the US market, in Europe, they're looking at this documentation as a testimonial to the capacities of the piles, how the piles work, the specifications, same in Canada. CWB and AWS is Canadian Welding Bureau and American Welding Society. These entities the CWB is actually a government entity in Canada. AWS it's an association, but it's still with the same purpose. These two entities certify that all of the manufacturing and welding that we do, because we're welded steel, your house is going to be built on this, is done according to best practices and that we ensure top quality. UKCA is similar to ISO 9001, but it's a specific standard that's used in the UK, England, and so on and so forth, for quality, for product conformity to UK law. CE, actually exactly the same as UKCA, but for the rest of mainland Europe. ACQ and CA are two certifications which are, so imagine you're building a deck and you have a pile which has a piece of steel, and that piece of steel is then going to touch another item, for example, a decking board. This certification ensures that the connection between these two items doesn't cause a corrosive situation. So if I have a piece of raw steel, like if I have a black steel pile and I put, for example, a Trex board on that, there's a reaction, and the black steel will cause the board to rot at hyper speeds. So when we galvanize it, it gives a coating which kills or eliminates the reaction of those two materials connecting together. So we watch everything we do. CCMC is Canadian Construction Materials Center. It's basically a certification specifically for the Canadian market, but again, it's looked at by many other countries because it's a government approval certification with high regards globally. Awards. We got all kinds of different awards. One of them is Canadian Business Review. They regard us as a top company as far as general practices and so on and so forth. We won the Franchise Choice, Canadian Franchise Association gave us the Franchise Choice in 2021, which is, top practices as a franchisor. Entrepreneur Magazine ranked us as, in the top 500 best performing and best franchises to purchase globally. Franchise Gator, which is a very well-known website that is used when people are trying to find a franchise, ranked us in their top 100 best franchise opportunities out there. So start your journey. Next slide there. Yeah. So we have a few different business models. In the end, they're really all, you end up in the same business, but there's different ways to sort of get into it. The first business model is very simple. You become a franchisee. You buy a franchise cold. You go from a zero start, and we assist you through the whole steps of setting your franchise up, which is probably about 85% of the people that purchase one of our franchise, or at least 70%, let's say. They're just buying a franchise. They're starting from zero, and so on and so forth. The next one is convert your business. You have a business. It's doing well, but you want to do something different. You're not making enough money. There's different reasons you want to get out. Maybe it's been 20 years. You're bored of it. I don't know. So we have one of the methods of getting into our as a franchisee is taking your existing model, your people, and so on and so forth, and converting your business to a GoliathTech franchise. That's one method of doing it as well. And the third one is cross-selling. So you have an existing business, actually, let's say example, in the construction industry, and you have a bunch of general contractors that already purchase product from you for whatever it is you do, but you already have connections within the construction industry, and you say, oh, well, if I add or purchase this GoliathTech franchise, now I can take my same customer base and I can feed through that same customer base, these existing relationships, product and installations and work specifically from the GoliathTech franchise. So those are the kind of three different ways that people generally enter as a franchisee. Okay, so what is the cost? The franchise fee for a GoliathTech franchise is $49.5. So basically, you're buying the goodwill, the back end, all of what it is to be part of this chain. You then have to purchase equipment. You need a pickup trailer, mini excavator. You need about $15,000 of tools, we'll call it, hydraulic drills and so on and so forth. All in, you're basically operational in the range of 100 to 241K. So what is the difference between 100 and 241? Depends how heavy you want to go in. Do you want to start with one employee? Are you a one-man show and you want to do it all yourself at the beginning and grow later? Or do you want to start with a structure which is a little more structured, where you have an accounting department, you have your installation crew, and you have your sales reps and so on and so forth. So it depends how you approach the startup, and that's personal to the person that's buying the franchise based on their cash flow situation. There's no royalty fee, obviously, as we talked about. There's 6% marketing. This is not a royalty fee. The marketing fee is every one of the franchisees pays into this big bucket, which is used for national marketing. So the whole chain contributes 6% of their purchases. So if you buy $100 of product, you get another line item underneath that says $6, which is basically 6% of your purchases that goes into a national marketing program. That covers Google ads and geo-localized ads, and sometimes we'll do radio. There's a whole different gamut of stuff that's done with that money. But we do not keep that money. It is not our money. It is your money, and we use it to promote the franchise chain. So as I was saying, it's not a royalty. So, all right. So maybe now's a good moment. Just if you could just sort of let us know what you're thinking. You must have questions. What is it that's intriguing you about the franchise? Do we have any questions?
I've turned on your microphones, so if you want to raise your hand, you can raise your hand. And if you want, you can also use the chat bubble on the right-hand corner for any questions that you want to ask through the chat.
Perfect. Everyone wants to buy a franchise. No questions. Nice and easy.
Even if you have questions about perhaps specific applications or something more specific about the actual themselves, that's fine.
So Mark Cunningham, you have a question for us?
Okay, I was going to ask you, and I may have missed this earlier, had a distraction, but how big are the territories?
So the way we did it is we had a third-party company separate the U.S. into, I believe it was around 1,900 maps. So sections of land, we'll call it. Each map is approximately 80 to 100,000 addresses minus high rise. Made of 3 maps. So basically, when you're designing out what is the area you're going to work in, you're going to typically start, well, you will, because we're going to allocate you 3 maps with your franchise. And then, you'll look at the different areas and the different mapping, and then we can decide what the suitable area is. As a general rule, you can imagine a franchise to be, anything within an hour's drive. So because you don't want to be spending 3 hours on the road to put in 10 piles because you're going to spend all your time in traffic. So, we'd rather people have tighter space and do more work in a smaller area because you're much more efficient. You'll make much more money that way. So imagine a franchise being 3 maps of 80,000 to 100,000 addresses minus high rises, because you don't put a pile where there's a high rise. And approximately, if you drop a needle on the map, within an hour's drive of where your physical location is. That would be a typical size.
Does that answer the question, Mark? If ever you have more, if you want to ask more, you can also unmute your mic again. I muted it since there was background noise, but if you have more questions, you can.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be quite a fairly large metro area.
Out of interest, where are you, Mark?
I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay, so Dallas-Fort Worth, if you look at Dallas itself, you could probably, 3-4 franchises maximum for the whole Dallas area.
Okay.
Perfect. Did you have any more questions?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Have any other questions out there? Going once? No.
All right.
What is the largest amount of sales that a franchise has done in 1 year? Around 6.5 million right now. Our franchisee in Minnesota, he started, I guess he's in his 6th year now, maybe starting his 6th or 7th season, and he's around 6.5 million this year. He's growing 20-25% every year, pretty much.
Do you have any more questions, Scott, about this? Is this okay?
Okay. I think if anybody has any last questions, we got Mark. Mark.
I know a little bit about this because I've had my office building helical piers, and my pool builder also used them. I know, but in both instances, they were waiting on, they were telling me there was 1 or 2 machines in the whole country, and the machine that they wanted to use was out of state somewhere else. So it's not my impression that these machines that the industry uses are hard to find. Is that correct? Because this is something that's it's hard to find the helical pier equipment to use.
No,
for the industry.
No.
The only thing, so the answer to that question, Mark, is no. The equipment is not hard to find at all. The only thing perhaps I can think maybe for the office building is because perhaps the piles were enormous and it was an exceptionally large machine they required. But for the pool or I mean anything, anything below a 3 or 4 story structure, I mean, no, it's very, very easy to get the installation equipment.
Yeah, we have as well. We open locations every month. So every month we open 1 or 2 or 3 locations, and we actually stock all of the equipment in what's called our startup kit. And we have, 7 to 10 of them always set up on the floor. So when a franchisee opens, it's as simple as this. We ship the whole entire starting kit of equipment, and then it's up to the franchisee to go out and get a pickup trailer and excavator. Excavators or pickup and trailers, readily available in the open markets.
Right. And actually, Mark, to take that a little farther, we actually have a loaner program as well. So if you came on board as a franchisee and you had your standard equipment that would be able to install approximately 10 to 12,000 foot-pounds of torque for a given helical pile, but you had a one-time very large job, we could lend you the equipment. All you'd have to do is rent your skid steer or excavator locally, because the transport of that is a little impractical. But we would literally lend you all the other equipment you would need to do that large installation.
You might want to mute yourself if you want to say, if you have another question, Mark.
Duncan asked, if I forget most of what you said, can I find the information online? Are we going to republish this for public availability, Andrea?
Yes. So we'll be sending out an email with the video content tomorrow. So you'll also be getting a copy of this recording. You can also visit our website, GoliathTechFranchise.com, and
You muted on us.
Yeah, you muted yourself.
that there's a chat on the website as well, and you guys can set up a call through our online form or call us directly, and someone from our team will be very happy to discuss with you.
Okay. So Scott, so that's a very good question. And like all, so I'll read the question in case everyone doesn't have it. Do we need to pull permits and everything ourselves when doing a job? So much like everything in the construction excavation industry, so we meet all federal building codes. However, I can't stress enough that when you're doing a job locally, you have to check with the local municipalities what the building code is, any permits you need to do, anything else, because there's so many area specific permits, regulations, little rules that you have to follow. We can't keep track of all of them. Like I said, all the large ones are covered, but it's up to you to look at the small ones. Now, that being said, say you a local municipality does have a local rule that one of the building inspectors has to be on site, for instance, during the installation of the helical pile. It's a very, very simple rule to follow. However, if you'd have installed the job, built the structure on it, and then go to get your project signed off on, and the building inspector says, well, listen, I wasn't on the job to see it, things get very, very complicated. So the short answer is it's up to you to check all the building codes. If it's something else that there's a requirement that you need us to fulfill, that's no problem. That actually happens all the time. We take care of that, but it's up to you to find out what that is. Better to purchase an excavator. So that's another very good question. So Duncan asks, is it better to purchase an excavator or a skid steer? So I wish I could say there is one magic machine that works the best on every project, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. When we're talking in the beginning, if your target is more for smaller construction, decks, home additions, manufactured homes, that sort of thing, a mini excavator would be ideal in that situation. If you're doing larger commercial construction on all new builds, where we don't have to concern ourselves with finished lawns and gardens, a skid steer is probably the ideal machine. So to answer that question, as we move forward in the process, when you be coming on board, we decide what projects you're looking at, what market you're going after, and we decide the best machine that would fit your needs.
Do we have any other questions from anyone out there? Seems not. Well, okay, so I guess first we'd like to thank you for taking the time. And if you do have more questions, by the way, you can still email us, contact us on our website, whatever it may be. But we'd like to thank you for taking your time out of your day. We know everybody has busy days to look at us and see what the GoliathTech franchise is all about. We appreciate everything. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to look at GoliathTech specifically as a franchisor, and we hope that in the future we can work together and maybe put a deal together and have you become one of our locations somewhere in the world, wherever you're located.
Excellent.
When is the 20-year patent done? The 20-year patent was filed in 2013, so 2033. Well, by the way, we have a patent. Our first patent was filed in 2013, but we've probably got about 50 patents, and they're constantly new patents coming out. And some of them were filed last week. So so they're literally. So it's a constant evolution of patent. We keep our portfolio live. We didn't just file one back in 2013 and call it a day. We were consistently patenting anything that new inventions that we come up with. So it's an ongoing portfolio. Our oldest one is 2013.
So talking specifically about other pilot companies, that's probably really makes us stand apart from other helical pilot companies, as we never stop looking forward. We never stop moving forward with new applications, new designs, new ideas. Whereas, like Julian just said, the other pilot companies are a little stagnant. They're kind of stuck in a rut. We're always looking forward and moving forward.
Yeah, the patent portfolio of our competitors is actually near zero compared to us, who have we're constantly protecting our chain through patents. I think that was possibly the last question. Again, if you guys have any other questions, you can come to our website and contact us and so on and so forth. So please, if we got Paul has a question for us. So want to unmute Paul, Andrian?
Yeah, he has to unmute himself. He has to click on the mic button at the bottom left.
Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
How well can this be done in the winter? I don't know if you covered this or.
I'm gonna answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's a very, very good question. And as you may or may not know, trying to install a helical pile in the frozen ground is an impossibility. We have tried it with a 20-ton machine, pushing as much crowd as humanly possible to get it in the ground, and it just would not go in. So what we did is we have a system of, we actually drill 1.5 inches, 3 foot deep pilot hole in the ground using a standard LT or Bosch hammer drill. And from there, we drop our heater in the ground. It takes about 20 minutes. It's about a 20 amp 110 plug. It takes about 20 minutes, and that heater heats the ground enough that we can install a helical pile just like in the summertime.
Oh, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. I think we're officially done.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I look forward to working with you.
We have one last question.
We
from
do?
Scott. Yeah.
Oh.
Scott asked, will this work for docks in water? Yes, it will. Absolutely. You have to be wary of where you're putting, ice moves mountains. So a helical pile is not going to hold back, the weight and the forces of ice. But if you're on the edge of a massive body of water where the ice can just push so hard, that could be one of the drawbacks. But in general, if you're in on a river or some sort of a smaller lake and so on and so forth, there's no problem. If you're outside of a frozen environment, no problem at all.
I'll just take that just a little farther. What we can do when, like Julian said, if there's a lot of ice movement, it doesn't matter how large your helical pile, the ice is gonna move it. However, when if we use a helical pile, more like a traditional anchor, if you will. So if we have the pile installed below the ice level, and then we actually install or add on the extensions. Oh, he's in Florida, so ice isn't a problem. So there you go. Perfect. So then that's a really a good answer. Yes, we can use the helical piles for docks.
Again. Okay, thank you, everybody.
All
We
right.
appreciate your time. Again, please do email us and contact us if you have more questions. You'll get a follow-up email from us, and we really look forward to hearing from you and hope that we can work together.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.